Man, there's nothing I love more than purchasing 3DS games on the eShop. Especially with my credit card. Ha! I can't do that anymore. You'd think given how soon they stopped supporting credit cards, they're planning on shutting down the service. Wait, they are?!
Well, I honestly knew this day was gonna happen, and it was pretty clear from the start. The 3DS got less and less support since the Switch came out, whilst the Wii U was basically thrown under the bus almost immediately. Both systems were discontinued for a good while now. My Nintendo stopped offering discounts for these games around the same time, and the Switch is now in full force when it comes to content. Same thing with the Wii Shop channel. But it's quite unfortunate, especially considering how many games are stranded on these consoles. You're gonna lose these games for good. It is one of these unfortunate parts of the video game industry, especially since a lot of it is going all digital now. It's these moments where everybody tears up and gets with other people to help go through these tough times.
Because of this, I'm gonna go over some games I bought throughout the years to tell you if they're worth picking up or not. I know I'm kinda ripping off Scott DeWaz's WiiWare videos, but since I highly doubt I'm the only guy on the internet talking about the 3DS eShop in 2022, I think it's safe to say these games are worth it. But first, I gotta give my condolences to YouTube and the anime channel, for we miss you so much.
The first game I'm gonna go through is Nintendo Badge Arcade. You know that claw machine assist trophy in Smash? Yeah, it has its own game. This is a free-to-play application that allows you to grab badges that you could use to decorate your home screen, just like a claw machine. In some ways, these were NFTs before NFTs. The service stopped adding new badges in 2017, but does give you 2 free plays every day. Since this is free to play, however, it has that classic microtransaction BS, myself doing so a couple of times. Aside that and the load times being slower than a funeral progression, this is overall a cute game. It's not mind-blowing or anything, but helps give your home screen a touch of personality you don't see on the Switch. Next is Pullblox, or Pushmo for US viewers. This puzzle platformer has you solve obstacle courses by pulling out parts of it to get to the goal. This is a great puzzle platformer with many various puzzles to test your wits and surroundings. It can give up a surprisingly tense challenge despite looking and sounding like a cartoon made for small children, and is definitely one of the quintessential games to nab on the 3DS. Plus, you can design your own levels. It would later have another game called Fallblox, where this time you use gravity to push the blocks to make your way up. However, even during the early levels, you start to realize that this is the Dark Souls of puzzle platformers. It can be extraordinarily difficult, and somewhat impossible without a guide. Like, look at this. How am I supposed to figure that out? I would personally give you a kiss if you could magically solve most of the puzzles yourself. But even with that, I still think it's worth getting because it offers a unique twist to the last game, offers a decent amount of content despite the difficulty spike, and again, a level editor. Finally, in the Blox trilogy, Fullblox, where this time, it's more like the original, and you can pull out on all sides. I personally think this is the best game in the series, just for the sheer amount of content it has for 9 quid. With normal puzzles, unique courses, obstacle courses, and NES sprites. But it had a strange release, where it was free to play with 7 levels available, and you had to pay for the rest. Why not make it a demo and the full game a standard release? But like I said, with hundreds of levels and the level editor coming back bigger and better, this is one of the most bang for your buck games on the surface. Unfortunately, none of these games have a physical release, so you best get these while the store is still open. BOXBOY. This side-scrolling puzzler has a box called Quippy. This box. Pull out boxes to traverse through stages and uses the gimmick in surprisingly creative ways. Starting from building a set of stairs for higher platforms, and creating a bridge across a long gap. This is one of the most creative games I've seen in a good while. Has a good amount of content before 49, the levels can also be rather challenging near the end, and come on, it's by the Kirby devs. It later received a sequel called BOXBOXBOY, where in the original you could only create 1 set at a time. This time, there's now 2 of them. Just like with the last one, the game goes all out with the concept, and can give off a really good challenge near the end. And finally, appropriately, Bye Bye BOXBOY, where it had so much more stuff to do, such as box babies, box jetpacks, teleportation, and explosives. Plus, it's even compatible with Kirby amiibo. Once again, it goes all out with the concept, and from what I've played so far, helped make the trilogy end on a really strong note. Just like Fullblox, they don't have a physical release. but bye bye BOXBOY for some reason does. It was only released in Japan, contains a Kirby amiibo, and because of that alone, it's stupid expensive. But that's not the end for Kirby, as there is a game on the Switch called BOXBOY and BOXGirl, and from what I've played, it doesn't hold a candle to the original trilogy. And just an isometric platformer where you play as a cube. Though the controls do take some time getting used to, and the occasional frame rate drop, this is a worthwhile game to try out, with a nice space-like aesthetic that reminds me of those really old Flash games I remember playing during lunch breaks at high school. Thankfully the game's on Steam, but the 3DS is a surprisingly good fit for this surprisingly good title. Nano Assault EX. This twin-stick shooter game has you in a small ship traversing around cells destroying all kinds of bacteria. As eShop games go, this game looks stunning, especially with the 3D turned on. Also, the game itself is some good old shoot-em-up amusement and successfully manages to make biology look fun.
This is the weirdest episodes of the Magic School Bus I've ever seen.
While it's probably best enjoyed with 2 analog sticks with the new 3DS or this hunk of plastic, the controls can be very easy to adjust to, and like I said before, this game is pretty awesome! Up next is Kirby's Blowout Blast, and you may be typing,
But Ed, you can already play Blowout Blast and Blind Robobot, you fraud, you hack. Yes, you can. But the eShop release is more expanded upon.
this game is essentially an arcade-style platformer where you play as everyone's favorite puffball, where you go across 3-dimensional stages to defeat enemies and rack up high scores. It's not the best Kirby side game out there, but does offer a decent taste on what a 3D Kirby would feel like, and it's now a better time than ever since Forgotten Land just came out a couple months ago.
But forget new and polished games, let's play outdated games that were originally made for a brick with a screen of a calculator.
Our first game is Super Mario Land. This is essentially Mario's first 2D outing on a handheld console, and boy does it feel like it. The gameplay feels extraordinarily wonky, the enemies are as small as a salt fragment, you fall like a brick, the Super Bowl's geometry makes no sense, and how is Mario managing to walk in this gap? But on the other hand, as a Mario game, it definitely has some sort of charm, I guess, back when this is the only way of playing 2D Mario on the go. And we definitely have it easy now thanks to the Switch, and because of them, it's quite hard to go back to the 1989 game. Especially the case when its sequel, 6 Golden Coins, came out 3 years later. For in this game, Mario has to collect all 6 golden coins to regain his castle, which got stolen during the events of the last game. How did Mario afford a castle? Now this feels more like a Mario game. You got a proper fire flower, overpowered bunny ears, and a lot of variety when it comes to the levels, including haunted mansions with Jason Voorhees, treetops with deadly ants, the guts of a whale, and inside a robot Mario. Plus, it introduces Mario as the main villain. Speaking of, Wario Land Super Mario Land 3 really rolls off the tongue. You play as Wario and he has to collect all the loot he can to have his own castle after his defeat in the last game. Unlike the last 2 games, coins are used as currency instead of lives. Mario collects hats to gain abilities such as breathing fire, charging, and walking in the air. The game itself has a neat DuckTales vibe to it when it comes to the gameplay, and this is a nice distraction from your typical platformers, and is the perfect anti-Mario game, and because of that success, led to its own abandoned franchise. Its sequel, Wario Land II, is similar to the last, and now focuses more on exploration to nab as much wealth as you can. In this, Wario is practically invincible, as when you take damage, you just lose coins instead of health, because of course. Power-ups are more creative, such as drinking a bubble from a penguin making you drunk, getting hit by fire makes you run faster and then become fire itself, and getting squashed making you float down when jumping and fitting in smaller gaps. So overall, I think this is worth picking up for its variety alone, and its sequel Wario Land 3 is that, but more expanded upon, even having a day and night cycle. Definitely pick these games up whilst you can. Remember when the biggest selling points of the 3DS was, well, the 3D? During its early days, Arika made some NES games to support 3D, and for this video, I'm gonna cover their first game, Excitebike. At a first glance, it's 10 decibels louder than any other 3DS game for some reason, and it may look just like any other version of Excitebike. But when you slide 3D up, you see more of the horizon. This simple change helps drastically elevate the scenery of the game, and makes it better to look at. And that's not all. The track editor is still here with a more simple interface, and this time you could actually save tracks. The This is by far the definitive version of Excitebike, and despite this, Nintendo's own 3D Classics lineup was shortly discontinued within a year. It makes sense because the lineup was terrible. Where Nintendo left off, Sega continued it in some way with their own games, and had a much stronger library, even releasing song compilations. But for this video I'll go over Sonic 2. You'd think given how many ports this and Sonic 1 have, this would feel unnecessary. Well, you're wrong. Sonic 2 now has 3D to see more of the scenery, and the effect looks quite decent. You can also start from any stage, can keep your rings, and even toggle between different Mega Drive console options for a different experience. This is a great port of a game you already can't go wrong with, especially seeing that Sega recently delisted most versions of Sonic 1 through 3 in CD in preparation for Sonic Origins. But if you're really worried about it, it is preserved in a Japan-only compilation of other 3D Sega games. I didn't say it was at a reasonable price. The last game I'll cover in this video is Flipnote Studio 3D. You know it's the greatest game ever made when it's not actually available on the storefront. It was originally a Club Nintendo reward briefly before it closed, and is now available only via My Nintendo. You can say all you want about this game, lacking in content compared to the DSi original, not being able to show to the world, but to me, that doesn't matter, as Flipnote 3D is a pretty decent application. It helped me get an idea of frame-by-frame animation, and before starting uni, I even practiced some techniques from the Animator Survival Kit. So as a free game, it's honestly pretty good.
And those are all the games I'll cover for this video. It's very unfortunate seeing how many games will no longer be available to easily purchase. And because of that, preservation is really important when it comes to all kinds of media, not just video games. As when you come down to it, cloud gaming and major streaming services are no prize picks themselves. As one day when their servers inevitably shut down, so much content will vanish. And according to a study by the Library of Congress, 75% of all silent films are considered lost, which is very unfortunate. There is a lot more out there on the 3DS eShop I want to go over and recommend. And that's not even covering DLC and themes. If there are any games you want me to go over and have fond memories of, please let me know down below. And with that, thanks for watching.